Nature versus nurture. Which one is more dominant? Hello, y'all. I'm Diana Brienne. Well, we're having another beautiful day out here today, but it is chilly. I just got in from a 5-mile run and I'm getting ready for the gym. And I wanted to come on here and talk about nature versus nurture. And what got me thinking about it is, today a friend of mine asked me, which do you find that is more dominant? Nature or nurture? And immediately I said nature. Nature dominates over nurture, although nurture shapes nature. Okay? And so she asked me to explain it a little bit more, and I did. I began to explain it to her that my thoughts about nature versus nurture. And, I'm not an expert at it. Okay, this is just my personal opinion. So, you may have a totally different perspective than I do, and that's perfectly fine. This is just my perspective. So, which is stronger, nature or nurture? I believe that they're both powerful. And yet, I believe that we are born, and, whether it's genetic or otherwise, biologically, we're born with certain attributes and certain traits, personality and otherwise. And I believe that those natural things, nature, is born into an environment that shapes those. And whether it's a blessing, whether you're born to be a great pianist, but if there's no piano, you're still going to have that talent. But the environment will shape that quality that you have in you. So if there's a piano around, you may be very attracted to that piano and become a great pianist because that was kind of part of who you are. And yet some people who were not born with that quality could probably become a great pianist too. It might just not come naturally for them. And I believe that often we are drawn. We're drawn to certain things. We're drawn to certain ways of acting and being. We're attracted to certain things. I believe often that can come from nature, many of our habits. I know I was talking to someone one day and they told me that they had a genetic disorder or a genetic issue. I don't know if they called it disorder or what they called it, but they said where they have a very high appetite for food. And so they have a problem holding their weight down, but they said it was genetic. And yet they didn't look, like they had a problem at all. And they said they shaped their genetics through their nurturing, through their choices. So just because they were more prone to eat all the wrong foods and too much of them, they had to be more cognizant of that and control that aspect of who nature kind of created them to be like that. And so they control it through the nurturing or through their environment. And so truly, I do believe that we are a combination. And I believe both do affect us. And yet, just because we may be born with certain genetic traits doesn't mean that we need to act upon them, or it doesn't mean that we will ever develop them. So if you're a great pianist who doesn't have a piano, you may, use that same trait and go do something else that is available to you in your environment. And so I do believe that nature plays a very powerful role, but it's not the only role. I believe that nurture shapes nature for the good or for the not so good. And I believe that sometimes people who are put in certain environments may act a certain way, but once they're taken out of that environment, they go back to who they really are. So I think that the environmental situations can affect the natural situations, so to speak. They work hand in hand together. And so basically, we want to take nurture in our environment and let it shape the best out of who we are. Okay, out of the best out of who we are, not the worst. And so I think everyone has their pluses and their minuses through nature. And yet it's what we do with those pluses and minuses that can determine how our lives turn out. So let's say I have a genetic predisposition to go around cleaning all the time. And I become obsessed with cleaning. And yet I realize that I have to control that. So I'm very aware of that, and I avoid cleaning all the time. Does that make sense? Now, like I said, this is nothing technical. This is just my opinion about it. But so when my friend asked me about nature versus nurture, I do believe that nature plays a tremendous role, and yet nurture plays a tremendous role in how it's shaped. And so I truly believe that it's nature and nurture that work hand in hand and work together. And just because someone, is maybe got a genetic predisposition to something, they may be able to avoid it by recognizing it, that they have this genetic predisposition to it. And at the same time, they may not be able to avoid it. But they may be able to understand it so that they can live a very quality life. And then there's other things that we can, avoid entirely. And just because we're not born to be a great pianist doesn't mean that we can't become a great pianist. I don't think I was born to be an artist, but yet circumstances, my kids were little, they were babies, and I was home all the time. And so I picked up canvas and paints and started painting. So, that was probably not a trait I was born with, but one that I developed. So I do believe that nature and nurture do work hand in hand, and you want them to work together in the most positive of ways. From my house to yours, may God bless you. I hope you like, share, subscribe, and I hope to talk to you soon again. Bye-bye.